I think the relationships with the city for the last decade have been tremendous. I think that the city has a really dedicated group of people trying to make economic development happen, bending over backwards to grow the city, both in terms of its tax base and opportunities within the city. It's been very positive. We've done more development in Augusta than anywhere else in the state, and there's a reason for that. It's a good community to do business in.
What are the properties on East Chestnut Street in that neighborhood, that Maine General did own, now you own? What do they pay in taxes now?
They pay in taxes no money. Maine General is a not-for-profit, and not-for-profits essentially don't pay any taxes to the municipality that they're in. They generate no income for the municipality. And for Augusta, this is a particular concern because it has more than its fair share of not-for-profits. It has a variety of governmental buildings, none of which pay any taxes to the city. So there's a greater burden in Augusta caused by this than in other municipalities.
Is the term tax break misleading, and if yes, how so?
The term tax break, when it's applied to a TIF, is very misleading because it implies that somebody's getting a reduction in their taxes off of what they're currently paying. And that's not how a TIF works. A TIF is an agreement between a private developer and a municipality where essentially you take the taxes that you're generating, the new taxes that you're going to generate from your development, and you redirect some of those taxes towards elements of your project that require financing. So in other words, if you're building a large commercial subdivision of land and you have to put in a road, you can't possibly make that upfront investment on your own. And so you say to the municipality, can I use the property taxes that I generate, the new property taxes I generate from my development, can that be used to service the debt on the road, on the infrastructure? And it's a win-win for both. What it does for the city is they don't have to pay for those things, that infrastructure, to your facility. It also gives the city the ability to control exactly what the money is used for. I think there's this misconception somehow that the money flows back to a developer and they just put it in their pocket and do what they want with it. That may be in some cases, but in the well-crafted TIFs that I've been involved with, the municipality tells you exactly how to use it, when to use it, and under what circumstances.
So TIFs are pretty complicated vehicles. Do you think it's a hard thing to summarize in a newspaper story?
It's very hard. And whenever I read a story about a TIF in a town that's being considered, I always feel a little badly for the reporter, only because they're trying to sum up all sides of an argument into a very small story, because there's only so much space that you have when you're writing a story. But in reality, these are very complicated agreements, 30, 40, 50-page legal agreements that detail what the money can be used for, under what circumstances you can use it, and that doesn't fit neatly into a newspaper story. Also, newspaper stories tend to have to carry the opinions of everybody who's been in a meeting. So whether or not they're informed opinions or they've gotten all the information they need, this sometimes can lead to a mistaken impression about what the instrument really is.
So when you read the phrase tax breaks in the paper, do you look at that as an attack on you personally or as an uninformed analysis?
Yeah, I never look at it as a personal attack. I think that newspapers now, particularly their blog sections or the ability to respond to stories, have become a place for people to share ideas, but also level unsubstantiated attacks. It's the nature of things. You propose a project, if you go out there, if you're asking for a public partnership, you're going to get all kinds of opinions, informed and uninformed, and it's the nature of it. And if you can't take it, it's the wrong place to be. So I never take it personally, but I do take it personally that people get the information that they need to make a good decision as to whether or not the deal makes sense for their town. And that's unfortunate. If you don't get all of the necessary answers to questions about what does this really do, what are the restraints on the developer, then it could be a disservice. I think that these cities and towns have great staff people, a lot of resources at their disposal to help people understand what's being proposed. The great thing about the internet is all these documents are public and freely available. And of course the meetings are open to the public, and so people can come to their own determination, but they certainly shouldn't do it simply by reading a newspaper story. We're happy to answer any question about the arrangement, why we need it, what the money would be used for, and the future of that facility in general. We're happy to answer any question.
Will this eventually generate new taxable value for the city?
There's no question about that, because currently the taxable value is zero. So as we add investment into the building and the investment is paid off, in other words, we borrow money from a bank to pay for the infrastructure necessary to get that building up and going. And once that's paid for, which is usually a 15 or a 20-year period, sometimes a little longer, then all of the taxes that are generated by that facility then go to the city like any other taxpayer. But what the city has done is put in place a stream of income for the future that it never had before. And it's not just any stream of income. Commercial property is different than residential property in what it demands from city services. Cities that are under strain for scarce resources that are now looking at or dealing with revenue sharing shortfalls, the state is pulling back what they're sharing with municipalities, should be looking to commercial development more and more. And the reason for that is commercial developments don't send any kids to school. They don't demand any city services that are expensive. Case in point, at the Commerce Center, which we developed in 2003, we have a private road. We have no trash pickup. We have no services demanded, and yet we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to the city. Whereas your average taxpayer, I'll just use myself as an example, I have 2 children, and I pay far less in taxes than what I cost my town to put kids in school, to provide for services. So commercial development essentially subsidizes families, and that's not a bad thing at all. But it certainly should be pushed by municipalities as a way to make up for revenue shortfalls.
Why didn't city officials or the hospital market this property themselves and find a buyer who wouldn't need to propose a TIF district?
They did. They came to us, and we came to this agreement really as a last resort before simply razing the property completely to the ground. The hospital actually went to public auction that was handled by a national brokerage firm, advertised it heavily, nationally, held an open auction, and some bidders showed up, but not enough to get to the price that they needed to make it work. And I believe the bidders that showed up may have been competing hospitals as well. So they did not find a buyer ready, willing, and able to take on this very large and complicated project.
You've had success with other large redevelopment projects right there in Augusta, have you not?
We've had great success with redevelopment in Augusta. In 2003, we bought the former digital plant, which was, at the time, it was a great concern to the city. It was paying a lot in taxes. I think it was paying close to maybe $150,000 or $200,000 a year in taxes. So it was one of the city's largest taxpayers and largest employers, and suddenly it was gone. We bought it and redeveloped the building into an office structure, the entire thing. 1,000 people on a given day now work there. And the property generates, that one property alone generates double in taxes to the city as to when we purchased it. But in addition, 200 acres of land came with the building. And we've been able to, in a partnership with the city, develop that land, and we are now returning a significant amount of property taxes back to the city of Augusta as a result. So it's been a real success for us, and I think that it's, at least to date, has tripled the net receipts to the city on an annual basis in property taxes, without putting really any demands on city services.
So the Central Maine Commerce Center, including the 1,000 people who work there every day and who have their own economic impact right there in the city of Augusta, that project that probably never would have happened had not a TIF district been put in place. Is that correct?
The growth that you see now, the construction that's happened over the last 2 years, which is arguably during the worst economic times in 100 years in terms of commercial development, that growth, 160,000 square feet of new office space in Augusta, would have never happened without the ability to take the property taxes that we were generating, not the taxes we were paying when we bought it. You don't get any break on that. But a return on the money that we generated and being able to allocate that towards road, water, sewer, the cost that it takes to further develop. Without that, it would never have happened. The city of Augusta helped make it all possible.
What's the next step in the TIF process?
The next step is a public hearing, another public hearing in February, where people will be able to come and watch the deliberations of city councilors over the details of what we are proposed. It gives an opportunity for people to reach out to their elected representatives, feedback to them or to city staff their concerns, and hopefully we further tailor and finalize this agreement in February so that we can get to work.